Hey guys, Rabbit here, back with another Starcraft Broodwar Remastered cast, and today we have another pro game back from 2011. This is between the Orange Terran Fantasy, and he is playing against the very well known and beloved Bisu. We are on Destination 1.1, a two-player map. So two-player maps, PvTs, tend to just be action right from the start. Very much looking forward to it. Obviously the meta has shifted a lot since this time, so you're probably not going to see speed shuttle reaver drops and 3 robos and some of the crazy stuff you see from players like Snow and all those kinds of things. You're probably going to see arbiters, you're probably going to see maybe high templars, but the more standard meta of this time was just the arbiter build with the speed lot goons, upgrades, and just mass expansions. So let's see what we get. Fantasy starting with a depot out towards his ramp, and we'll see how things progress from there. Again, the other thing that was far less popular in this time is the Rax expand. So you see the Rax expand now in the modern meta. It really does give Terrans an advantage. It gives them an option to push. Back in this time, 99% of the time is a factory expand that you tend to see. So let's see what we get. Bisu, probably considered to be the best Protoss player of all time. Today in 2022, probably not the best Protoss player currently. I think that mantle belongs to Snow, but he is still one hell of a good player even now. But here back in 2011, he must have been an absolute beast at the peak of his powers. So he seems to be going for a Nexus first, which when you are a very brave, very good, and very strong Protoss player, that's what you do. Considering this is a two-player map, Nexus first is just absolutely terrifying. The gas is up, the Rax is on its way, so it's definitely looking like a factory expansion from our Terran Fantasy, which means this Nexus first potentially becomes very, very punishable. Alright, so gas is on the way, first gateway is on the way, and the news has been relayed by this SCV back to Fantasy going, hey bud, guess what? Bisu's gone Nexus first, let's go! I love these two roads into this map. It's just an absolute fixture of this water here. This is just sort of this famous feature of this map, and you almost know immediately that you're on destination just when you see that road to the opponent's base. Cybercore comes up. Bisu is just fearless, man. He hasn't even built a zealot. He's just gone straight gateway, cybernetics core, no zealots. He's adding a second gate. So it's 2-gate core, no units at this stage. I don't know what he would plan to hold any pressure with. There's a marine that is chasing his scouting probe around. He's keeping him alive without too many issues. Our friend Fantasy is not making any marines though either, so it doesn't look like he's planning to push this. He usually would push this with a bunker and about 4 or 5 marines rallying down vultures. That doesn't seem to be the play. It looks like possibly he's just going to get away with this opening, and that is going to hold Bisu in really, really good stead as we transition into the mid-game. So he has built 1 zealot, but that's it. A single zealot. He's getting range even before 2 goons. So he's got 2 goons coming out. He's saturating his Nexus. This is an absolutely beautiful start of your Protoss. It's so nice to get away with this. And Terran just proceeds with the factory expand. He's got 3 back on gas because his command center has now started. We'll see now how he transitions, if he explodes his factory count and goes for a 2-base push, or if he's going to try and turn this into a 3-basing game. So Bob the Zealot has arrived. So Bisu, from initially being on the defensive position, now move forward just to probably scout this. I don't think this Vulture is going to let him get away though. Vultures do such good damage against Zealots. Just a little bit of micro, and our friend Bob the Zealot is dead. Decent play there from Fantasy. Floating his barracks forward just to set up a little bit of a wall, and there will certainly be Dragoons incoming really, really soon. So Robo coming in, and I'm pretty sure based on the relatively passive response received to date from our Terran that Bisu is going to look to take a third. He's only on 1 factory though, and has gone with a starport, a very early starport, which screams to me that there's going to be a drop attempted here. I wonder if Bisu is going to be ready for this. This could be really, really big if he doesn't scout this or isn't able to adequately block this. So we'll have to keep an eye on this port, see what comes out, and most importantly, what goes into those dropships when that does happen. First upgrade coming out of the shop is speed for mines. So it looks like it's going to be a vulture drop. That would make a lot of sense. There's this back channel on this map that you can fly behind to drop into the main of your opponent, or you can just drop in here. There's nothing really to block this from this angle, so I think that's probably the way it's going to go. Moving the vultures into position early, and then the dropship just basically has to fly out to receive them. So here comes the dropship. Meanwhile, Bisu is getting a robotic support base. It looks like he wants to play a little bit of a Reaver style game. The speed of the vultures kicks in very noticeably. It's a big strong wall though, so you ain't going to get in that front door, that's for sure. But I think poking in there just to make sure that Bisu moves his vultures forward and potentially luring him to a false sense of security. Second upgrade has come through the shop, so mines and speed is now done. And so once this dropship comes in and picks these units up, they could potentially lay some mines. Although look at this. Although look at this, guys. He wasn't Bisu, the best freaking Protoss player of all time, for nothing. His sense of anticipation here is really, really good. So here comes the drop. Does get in the front door, but there are some Dragoons here in position. He's actually picked up even more. How many? So 6 vultures have run in the front door here, though. There are 4 goons here. He's run around. The sim is pretty good. I don't think he's going to be able to get into the middle, although he could go around the back here. And that's exactly what he does. And he lays mines in a lot of positions. If he wants to, if he could lay a mine in the mineral line, that could really hurt. Bisu's composure here, though, pretty good. He gets the goons in, pushes them out. There are a few mines here that could intercept these goons, which is a bit of a pain. Maybe laying a few here would be good if he can get down here. So he does not lay any more mines. I think he might be out. So these vultures are going to be cleaned up quite nicely. And once the robo is in place, I think he's prioritized. There is his observatory, and he does have an observer. So he's probably just going to wait for his observer to pop, keep his goons exactly where they are. Unfortunately, that mine trip, that's a bit of bad luck. But now, Zealots have come out. I think he built Zealots there exactly for this purpose, to trip these mines. So now the observer's there. He's going to tidy that up. And all in all, 74 plays 50, 42 workers to 38. I think Bisu's still very much in the lead. I don't know what the Wraith is for. I think it's because he scouted the support bay. He's expecting the Reaver drop. And his counter to that is to actually try and take out the shuttle with a Wraith. He's got his dropship now going back home with him. Floating down a 3rd command center. Wow. A sub 8 minute expansion from Fantasy. This is some serious StarCraft, ladies and gentlemen. Really, really impressive stuff. Bisu, of course, to never ever be outdone, is taking his 3rd as well. So it's a 3-basing Terran versus a 3-basing Protoss. And this is serious action here. This is good. Really good stuff. Alright, so how's our gate count progressing? So we've thrown up another 2 gates, so we're going up to 4 gates. Observers in the base, so you can see, okay, so you've got just 2 factories, academy for your scanners. Where's your armory? The other funny thing, I cast the game the other day at PvT, and there were no upgrades after 16 minutes from either side. So upgrades were just not a thing in 2009. I'm sorry for the scrolling. I'm just trying my damnedest to find an armory. There isn't one. So obviously 2009 meta was, we don't need upgrades. What are upgrades? Which is so funny now, considering how this game is played today, or this match in particular is played today. Bisu does have a forge. Does he have +1? No, so the forge is there, I guess just for cannons to protect your mineral line. It looks like he's setting up, this is a spotting group, so to see any drops that would be incoming, and maybe to set up a 4th base. Now flying around to sort of count the bases of his Terran opponent, to check if there's anything on this side. I really like the position of Terran having the 3 bases. Here comes another drop. Let's scout this and see how it goes. No real head-on engagements in this game thus far. Just drops, skirmishes, harassment. That's been it. I haven't seen the Reaver come through. Here seems to go an observer and nothing else. So here comes our attempt at a drop. Okay, he drops it down beautifully, gets the tank in there, sieges up the tank. They're a little bit slow on the reactions from Bisu, though. He's going to drop the Reaver in here. The mines are going to connect, though. The mines didn't move. That is unbelievable. They popped and they stopped. It's twice. What? Uh-oh, more mines here though. These goons coming in. They do have an observer flanking them. There's probably enough of them to kill this. I don't know what, if anything, was really achieved from that drop. Difficult to say. I always find it very, very hard to measure the profits on drops and whether they're actually worthwhile. Another mine pops. Hit takes a full hit and he gets a probe for it. This Volta there's going to get cleaned up. Nicely done, you could say. This mine now is giving him good visibility inside Bisu's home. Still just 3 basing. Oh, a lot of factories. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Nice visibility with a floating factory, a couple of depots out on this buildable terrain, a few Goliaths to block the shuttles. He has really looked good in terms of blocking the shuttles. I think Bisu got the support bay and was not really able to do anything with it. Meanwhile, another drop is coming in here. Wow, Fantasy has been so committed to the drop play. Drops the siege tank down, but the probe pull is so fast. They're gone. Probes are there, probes are gone. Yeah, okay, so they've gone to the gap. So he's just dropped the Reaver right on top of him. So Bisu's had the shuttle and the Reaver all this time. Hasn't actually sent him out into the Terran. Oh my god, the mine drag was brutal. So the Reaver is here. Another drop. Of course, he's now dropping siege tanks here and smothers a heap of probes. A little slow on the reactions there. I think he probably got 5 probes just from that shot alone. Again, the Reaver dropped in to clean this up. This Ronald the Reaver has been super defensive and has been used. Yet more mines get tripped. Beautiful play. Fancy up to 70 workers at this stage on 3 bases. He's got huge base saturation. And the amount of harassment and the profits that he's got on this now. And now I'm starting to become convinced, now that he's started to kill workers, that this has really, really worked well. Bisu has got a whole heap of Dragoons here, though. Do we have any tanks? I mean, it's been so much harassment. Okay, so here's our tank count. It's not huge. We have maybe 7 or 8 in total, which for this time in the game, 12 minutes, is really, really low. And I think Bisu's game sense here is probably quite good in the sense that he knows now, if he were to move out and counter push the Terran, does he actually have enough to hold him? He would need to throw some Zealots into his composition. We can see he's gone with an Arbiter build. He doesn't seem to be, he is doing double upgrades, but he doesn't seem to be building any Zealots at this stage. It's very, very Dragoon-centric composition, which is going to make breaking this tank line a little bit more tricky. He is moving across here now, potentially to try and harass this new base where 3 of the Terran's tanks have been placed to defend. Bisu snuck this base here into the corner, and again more and more harassment from Fantasy, but this time the goons are on top of it. He doesn't take any damage really. He's got his probe count again back up to 60, but guess what, guys? More vultures in the main. This has just been the theme of this game. A good spot, a good position for this cannon though, so again tidied up with relative ease, although every single drop he's losing a minimum of 4 or 5 workers. Okay, so this is a pylon wall, or sorry, a depot wall, which is where ground units go to die. There is, however, another way up, and if you can get up this hill, that is going to be a clutch point. The Arbiters have arrived now to cloak these units. Some Zealots now are also supporting the army, and Bisu is starting to look very strong here. We can see all these units moving in. I'll zoom out for the engagement. Here he's going to move in. The tank line is actually not all that deep. I didn't see a stasis go off. I think the Arbiters at this stage are only providing cloak. The scans are going down though. It's taxing Fantasy's APM to constantly be able to scan the units. That engagement though went pretty well for Fantasy. His tank line didn't really get broken down. These floating buildings do mess up with the targeting of the AI. So Bisu decides to pull back. I think he just needs some more Zealots. You can see he's building 2 Arbiters at a time. 6 Zealots, 2 Goons, another cannon, and another Nexus. He's expanding again. Okay, so he's expanding to this bottom left position. So he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bases. So plenty of money for our Protoss player. 160 plays 160 though. The difference at this stage is pretty much just workers. The goons moving in to protect this position again. Fantasy's harassment play in this game has just been unbelievable. Runs straight through the front door again, knocking off even more workers. I'm sure a cannon here wouldn't hurt anybody, just saying. I mean, the amount of times that he's come in and picked up probes, he's been knocked down to below 60 probes 5 times I can count in the last 5 minutes. It has just been unrelenting economic harassment from our Terran player. Will that translate into a win? It's difficult to say. I'm going to have a look now to see if he's got an armory. He's got 2 armories going. Okay, so he is embracing his upgrades now finally. Where are his upgrades at this stage? If we have a look at this tank, it's 1-0 at 15 minutes. So not exactly quick upgrades, but it's upgrades nonetheless. Let's have a look at what our Terran ground is at. 2-1. So yes, I'm not kidding you. Protoss have got an upgrade advantage on Terran in the PvT. These are 2 pros playing, but it is 2009 meta. Proof that the meta does indeed shift over time. Okay, so a whole heap of tanks have moved down into a very dangerous position. Pretty much totally unharassed there, although here comes Bisu's army kind of circling around, so we just have a bird's eye view of where the units are moving into. He obviously wants to take this fight in as big of an arc as he possibly can. He seemed to have moved forward in a aggressive posture, and then at the same token decided, nah, I'm good. He has dropped a few tanks here though, so this is news. And Bisu's just kept his units here. I've gone a little bit quiet because the game has gone a little bit quiet. Bisu's basically kept his units here, and that's that. This Nexus is going to go down. He's had to pull the probes. This has been a really good game from Fantasy. I've been incredibly impressed. This cluster, though, makes me feel like he's going to try and do a recall. We have to try and track these arbiters. I just have a feeling. It just smells recallish. It just smells recallish. Okay, that being said though, he's moved all those units, so maybe he's not recalling. He's trying to knock down this base or defend a new base that he's establishing here. Another army's going to engage, but you can see this is a terrible position for Protoss to take the fight. All these tanks are sieged up so close together. He's got no storm support, and yes, he could flank, but god, this is a terrifying number of tanks. Really difficult to do. 190 plays 180. This base is not going to get established at all. This Nexus is destroyed. The mines are laid here as well, so it's going to take him some time to clean this up. This base is merrily mining away, and unless Bisu can pull off some sort of recall to cause some serious damage, I think he's going to be in the world of pain. That Wraith that was built a little while ago, look, he's done some damage. So Terran's able to establish this base now. He's able to transfer his SCVs, and Fantasy, to me, is in a really strong position here. Our Bisu is in big trouble. More tanks to harass this base. The harassment style here from Fantasy has just been absolutely top class. Really good. So this probably was a successful recall. I don't know otherwise how these units would have got up and in here. He's going to deny the space, which was pretty well done. The tanks, though, have moved across. There's a lot of zealots here. The pathing here is really tilting. Although the death sound for these units of the siege tanks has come through. There are some unsiege tanks on the lower ground that are firing on and picking off these zealots. But I don't think that's going to matter. I think most of this is going to end up 188 plays 181. This game has just been harassment predominantly with very few big fights. But now with the base denials that become critical for both players to win, we are going to see more and more fights. And they're all going to be around base denials. So this base, again, another harassment of tanks knocking down a Nexus, splitting Bisu's attentions absolutely everywhere. So he tried to save this base. He couldn't. It could get re-established. But while he was trying to save that base and failed, he's gone in to try and kill this base of Bisu. But Bisu's pivoted his whole army around. He's actually going to shut this harassment down and keep this Nexus going. So that is a really good engagement. And it still stays, though, very close. This 180 to 167 is what the scores have been, or the supplies have been, for almost the last 5 minutes. It's just been a frenetic back and forth, fighting for these adjacent corner bases on this map. This map doesn't have a lot of bases on it, so you've got to make hay while the sun shines. You've got to take them, you've got to keep them. Otherwise, you lose. And that's exactly what this game has been about. Take it and keep it, or lose. Okay, so is he planning to re-establish the space yet? Let's see. So he's keeping some units here. Fantasy not taking the pressure off, though. He seems to want to try and stop Bisu from re-establishing this base, which he could very well do. However, Bisu decides, okay, well, I'm not going to try and re-establish this base. What I'd rather do is good luck, because you don't have a lot of pathing options. I'm going to come here and I'm going to have an absolute field day picking up SCVs. You're going to go from over 65 SCVs down to below 50 when I'm done with you. There's only a few tanks coming through, and if he turns them around and one-shots them, He could actually pick up a lot of these tanks. All the SCVs are done, so with a little bit of micro, he'll pick them off. 189 plays 196. There is probably some counter fights happening here. Yes, more vultures coming in, more tanks sieging up, so he's going to put some counter pressure on the space. And I think he has enough tanks now to clean up these Dragoons. This game has just been absolutely non-stop. Again, though, Bisu comes around to defend this position, and I think he's going to defend it now and hold this down. Has Fantasy been able to re-establish this base? Yes. Has anybody re-established this base yet? No. Is this base re-established from Bisu? No. Is he able to defend the harassment on this base? Yes, still for the moment he is. Although some science vessels are coming in here to throw in some D-Matrix, potentially hit an EMP on this Arbiter. This base was held. The SCVs are coming back. This Arbiter, though, is still shooting at the SCVs that are coming out here, so somebody's going to have to tie it up. Bisu is spending so much of his time and energy. He's actually stasis pretty much his own units. 4 Zealots, 1 Dark Templar, 2 Science Vessels, and the tanks on the ground. So double stasis there, probably with mixed results. Holding on for dear life to this corner position. Fantasy, though, is just unrelenting in his pursuit of killing this base, because behind this, what does Bisu still have left? He's got this, which is low, and that is it in terms of his bases. Our Terran doesn't need as much money to sustain him. He's got a little bit of a bank, and Bisu desperately needs this base to be held. So more pressure from Bisu this side, trying to knock down this base, although a lot of Fantasy mech units are moving up here. And they're going to tidy up these goons really quickly. These units are getting stronger and stronger. As we can see, the upgrades are scaling beautifully. So we see the 3-2 mech coming in here, smashing Bisu's army, who has to run away. Yes, Bisu's done well in establishing and keeping this position, but Fantasy will not let him have this. He's got this base up again. A recall here, which we did well spotting. So this base is going to go down, but this he could have just walked in the front door. The recall probably wasn't all that necessary. It's just a fancy way to achieve the result of denying this base, but this base is still going. And more importantly, Bisu's had to evacuate this again, just for 1 tank. 1 tank is going to do the business and knock down this Nexus, and that is going to be too much. I don't think our Protoss can come back from this. I think this is going to be a Fantasy win. What an incredible game of harassment, and such a great exhibition of how to slow a Protoss player down all game long. Meanwhile, Protoss is coming here to try and harass another position, but again, just sieging up a little cluster of tanks. He's done that so effectively all game long. His APM and his multitasking has just been out of this world good. A really fantastic game from Fantasy. Again, the space is down. Bisu has got so little income. He's got this, and that is about it. This Nexus is re-established, but guess what, guys? Fantasy's back to smash this down. This is a very healthy base with a lot of money, so obviously all his attention's here. Bisu knows this is absolutely critical. He's got to hold this. It's a beautiful double stasis, though. So these tanks are really in a world of pain. He's trying to micro them back as much as he can. I think he's going to lose a lot of units here, but Fantasy's just got so many. 140 plays 120. He could rally in some more units potentially to clean this up, but he does hold it, Bisu, for the time being. Let's see what happens. Once these tanks come out of freeze, I reckon they're all going to get cleaned up. Where are your units? Okay, so he's unsieging his siege tank here. And I think he's going to move on this position with everything he has. This is it. This is the move for Fantasy. He has to push this position. If Bisu is allowed to hold on to the space, then the game gets drawn out even further. If Bisu is able to win this engagement, if Fantasy is able to win this engagement and Bisu loses the space, then Fantasy wins the game. He's moved everything down. There are literally 4 goons here, and whatever he could get out of his gateways here, so let's call it 14 ground units against all his mines and a hugely deep line of tanks. Protoss does not stand a chance here. The mines have done magnificent work, easily killing 4 or 5 of the zealots before they could get close. There are 3 dragoons left, and all of Bisu's most critical income is here. He just has to push these tanks forward, and that is going to be the end of our Protoss, surely. Sieges up, scans the position, knocks down those dragoons like they're nothing. In come the vultures, in come the vessels to do the spotting for the siege tanks. There is nowhere else he can go. Bisu GG's, Fantasy, you boss. What a brilliant game, giving Bisu a solid hiding in what was an incredible exhibition of harassment play. Bisu could not play the game he wanted to play. His recalls did a very limited amount of damage, but the map awareness from Fantasy, to be everywhere, to be denying expansions all the time, to be knocking expansions down all the time, that was an absolutely top-notch PvT. I'm Rabbit Roo, Variety Broodwar. I'm here on a regular basis. If you enjoyed this game, please do subscribe to the channel. Until next time, ciao for now.